We're often more frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality. This insight from the Roman statesman Seneca is the key to one of the most powerful and counterintuitive tools in Stoic philosophy, premeditatio malorum, the art of negative visualization. In a world obsessed with positive thinking, manifestation, and non-stop optimism, the idea of sitting down to imagine losing everything you love sounds, well, a little crazy, almost reckless. But for the Stoics, this wasn't pessimism, it was protection. Negative visualization is the deliberate rehearsal of worst-case scenarios, not to live in fear, but to dissolve it. Think about it. Anxiety thrives on the unknown, on that scary monster hiding just out of sight. But when you voluntarily turn and look at that monster, you see it for what it is. It's no longer a looming shadow. It's something defined, visible, and therefore manageable. Most of us live in a fragile bubble of optimism. We just assume tomorrow will be like today, that our jobs will be there, our health will hold up, and the people we love will always be around. This feels comforting, but it makes us incredibly vulnerable. Because when life inevitably throws us a curveball, the pain is amplified by pure shock. It's not just the loss that hurts. It's the collapse of our expectations. Negative visualization dismantles that shock before it happens. By imagining loss in advance, we create a mental buffer. We don't eliminate grief or pain, but we reduce the disorienting surprise that can knock us completely off balance. So how does it work? The practice is simple, but emotionally challenging. You imagine losing your job, your reputation, your health. You picture your carefully laid plans falling apart. Even more confronting, you look at the people you love and acknowledge a truth we spend our lives avoiding. They woe and be here forever. This sounds heavy, I know, but the goal isn't despair. It's intensity. When you truly accept that something can be taken away from you, your appreciation for it skyrockets. Love stops being an assumption and becomes an active choice. Gratitude is no longer some abstract concept. It's a direct response to the fragility of life. Negative visualization doesn't weaken your attachments. It transforms them into deep, conscious presence. This mental shift pulls you out of constant worry about the future and grounds you firmly in the present moment. When you understand that life is temporary, the ordinary becomes extraordinary. Not because your circumstances changed, but because your perception did. You stop living in your head, negotiating with imaginary disasters, and you start actually experiencing the life you have right now. The realization that life is a loan, not an entitlement, changes your entire emotional posture. Complaints start to feel petty. Expectations loosen their grip, and appreciation grows without any effort, because you stop taking things for granted. This practice is like an escape route from what I call the cave of entitlement. That quiet background belief that we are owed comfort, stability, and things going our way. So much of our suffering comes not from events themselves, but from our violated expectations of how things should be. Negative visualization recalibrates those expectations. When you rehearse difficulty, your current reality starts to look less like a boring Tuesday and more like a stroke of incredible luck. There's also a powerful resilience component that builds over time. When you mentally walk through scenarios like financial loss, illness, or failure, they slowly lose their power over you. They shift from being absolute catastrophes to being manageable possibilities. So if something similar does happen in real life, you're not meeting it with total shock. You're meeting it with a sense of familiarity. Your mind recognizes the terrain. This alone can give you the clarity you need in moments where panic would normally take over. This is why Stoic thinkers like Marcus Aurelius emphasized preparation over blind optimism. Their legendary calm wasn't rooted in a belief that things would always go well. It was rooted in the knowledge that things might not, and that they would be ready to respond when they didn't. Hope without preparation is fragile, but preparation without despair creates unshakable stability. Negative visualization is that perfect middle ground, clear-eyed and realistic, but never hopeless. The practice also acts as a powerful antidote to one of the most common traps of modern life, the hedonic treadmill. As humans, we adapt to good things incredibly quickly. A new car, a promotion, a new relationship, the initial excitement fades, and it becomes our new normal. We're always chasing the next thing to feel happy. Negative visualization interrupts this cycle. By simply imagining the absence of what you have, you renew your appreciation for it without needing to change a single thing in your external world. Suddenly, your current life feels rich and full again, all because you changed your perspective, not your possessions. This reveals a deep Stoic paradox. The fear of loss creates dependence, while the acceptance of loss creates freedom. The person who has everything but is terrified of losing it lives in a constant state of defense. But the person who understands they could endure loss lives with more openness, more courage. The difference isn't their circumstance. It's their relationship with uncertainty. Negative visualization shifts you from, "I cannot lose this," to "I will treasure this for as long as it's here." At its core, this practice is about training your perspective as a skill. External events will always be unpredictable, but your interpretation of those events is where your power lies. Stoicism doesn't promise you control over what happens. It promises you influence over how you frame what happens. When you repeatedly confront imagined loss, you learn that your well-being isn't tied to circumstances, but to your response. This realization becomes an internal fortress, not a wall that blocks out emotion, but a structure that prevents you from collapsing when life gets hard. And strangely, a sense of lightness emerges from this discipline. When you stop demanding that life be permanent and predictable, you stop fighting with reality. You engage more directly with what is, instead of what you think should be. The practice doesn't remove risk from your life. It removes the illusion that risk can be eliminated in the first place. And paradoxically, that makes it easier to live fully, not harder. You see, much of our fear isn't about the event itself, but our imagination's refusal to see past the moment of crisis. The mind stops at the point of loss and treats it like an abyss. Stoic rehearsal forces you to continue the story. You imagine yourself adapting, responding, rebuilding, surviving. Once the story includes survival, the fear loses its grip. The worst-case scenario stops being a void and becomes just another difficult chapter. The darkness of this exercise is precisely what illuminates the beauty of your current reality. By deliberately facing uncomfortable possibilities, the simple, ordinary stability of today starts to feel vibrant and precious. The present moment stops being a waiting room for the future and becomes the main event. This is why the practice creates freedom, not heaviness. Freedom emerges when fear no longer dictates your choices. You can pursue big goals, love deeply, and take meaningful risks, all without that nagging background anxiety that something might go wrong. To practice negative visualization is to become fluent in impermanence without becoming numb to beauty. Over time, the result isn't a constant morbid focus on loss. It's a reduced fear of it. The scenarios you once avoided thinking about no longer have control over you. Your mind becomes less reactive, less fragile, and in that newfound strength, appreciation for what you have grows effortlessly. The paradox at the heart of this philosophy is striking. By imagining the darkness, you increase your capacity to see the light. By rehearsing loss, you strengthen your presence. By accepting that nothing is guaranteed, you experience what you have right now more fully. It doesn't eliminate uncertainty. It just removes the terror that surrounds it. And when uncertainty loses its power to intimidate you, life becomes lighter, more immediate, and far more intentional. Thanks for watching. If this idea resonated with you, consider subscribing for more insights on building a resilient and meaningful life. See you in the next one.